Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our info session for the fourth year of the Executive Residency Program. Before we begin, we want to start by acknowledging that we're all speaking from the traditional territory of many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. Personally, I'm located in Toronto, or Takaranto, which is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto, or Takaranto, is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. The Canadian Academy supports and promotes the narrative sovereignty of all Indigenous peoples. We recognize all First Peoples who were here before us, those who live with us now, and 7 generations to come. We encourage you to find out which traditional lands you reside on and to familiarize yourself with the longstanding history of that land and your place in that history. Following in the footsteps of Indigenous peoples, we strive to be responsible stewards of the land, to respect the cultures, ceremonies, and traditions of all who call it home, and commit ourselves to working in a spirit of truth and reconciliation to make a better future for all.
Thank you everyone for joining us for our info session today. We wanted to note off the top that today's info session and program will be conducted in English, and placements for the Executive Residency Program will be made in English dominant environments. Upon request, the program will offer translation into French whenever possible. So, la séance d'information aujourd'hui et le programme se dérouleront en anglais et les placements seront effectués dans des environnements majoritairement anglophones. Le programme offrira sur demande une traduction vers le français dans la mesure du possible. We also have a couple of additional resources if you're looking for more information. So voici quelques ressources supplémentaires qui sont bilingues. The first two are on our website, and then the others are our YouTube channel and the email address that you can share your questions at.
So for those who are not familiar, the Executive Residency Program is a talent development program run by the Canadian Academy. Our organization strives to build lasting change in the Canadian industry by nurturing opportunities for creative and authentic storytelling. And so on the call today, we have two of us here who are part of the Canadian Academy. Before we dive in, we just want to introduce ourselves. So we have Nancy here, who you just heard from, who uses she, her pronouns, Elle in French. She's the manager of talent development programs. And my name is Chris Chu. My pronouns are he, him, Il in French. And I'm a coordinator of talent development programs here at the Canadian Academy. And so here's our agenda for today's session. Once we finish our welcome and introduction, we'll do some quick housekeeping off the top. We'll discuss more about what the Executive Residency Program is, who the advocates are for this year's program, and who is eligible to apply. We'll also cover how to complete your application online, the adjudication process, along with key dates of the program, before wrapping this up with the Q&A portion at the end. So just off the top, we want to highlight some housekeeping rules for today's session. We'll have a formal Q&A portion at the end for everyone to ask any questions you may have about the program. Questions can be submitted in either English or French, but please note that questions will be answered in English. Pour toute question générale sur le programme, veuillez utiliser le Q&A en français ou en anglais. Les questions seront répondues en anglais. We ask that you please reserve any questions about your personal eligibility and or personal application materials, and please send those to our team by email instead. For example, if you have any questions about your career experience or projects you've worked on, please email those inquiries directly to us. We tend to receive a lot of questions at the end, so please only submit your question once. This helps our team to avoid missing your question and to ensure we've tried to answer everything we get. If you do happen to miss any portion of today's info session, a recording of this will be uploaded and available online to our Canadian Academy YouTube channel. And as always, already mentioned, if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to contact us by email at programs@academy.ca.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's always going to take me a while to unmute when it's my slide, so sorry about that. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. This is our fourth year. We're starting the fourth year of the Executive Residency Program, so we're really excited to get you all in the room and to talk about this program a little bit. We're going to start with a quick overview of what we do in this program. So this is an initiative by the Canadian Academy that is dedicated to providing industry access for primarily mid-career screen professionals who identify as Black, Indigenous, or people of color. And this is in order to create a change in the next generation of media executives and decision makers. This program usually runs about 8 months, and the intention is to match our chosen participants with high-level advocates. So these are usually VPs or executive producers or development or production executives. And this gives our participant that insight into how they make creative and business decisions at that executive level. So this year for the program, we're looking to accept 6 to 8 participants. And this year the program will start running in June and go through to February of 2026 next year. And the main components of this program are, so one, this one-on-one placement between the participant and our advocates. We'll talk a little bit more about who our advocates are this year, but that will give this really sort of close opportunity to both see how the advocate's day-to-day looks like, what they do in their role, as well as ask questions and create a personal connection with someone who can give so much insight into the industry. We also like to bring in our participants together for online group sessions with a guest speaker who is a very experienced person in the industry, an industry leader. And the topics that these sessions cover can include things like project development or organizational governance or the individual career trajectories of these leaders that we bring in as guests. These topics are super malleable and we change them year to year depending on the areas of interest of our participants. We also recognize that a lot of our participants come to this program pretty experienced in their field of expertise. So we want to make room for peer-to-peer mentorship and hear from everyone about their side of the industry, as well as give opportunity for the cohort to connect with each other and again, to fortify those relationships within the industry laterally as well. So we invite you to apply to this program if it's of interest in either English or French. If you feel you would like to request an accessibility adjustment to the application, feel free to look at the portal, see where you would like that adjustment, and to email us and let us know what that would be. And yeah, good news, there are no fees to apply for this or any program at the Academy, and there are no fees to apply or to participate. Sorry.
Thank you, Nancy. So taking away from here, as already mentioned, this program pairs participants with executives who we call advocates, and we're thrilled to share the names of this year's group. So starting off with Bell Media, we have both Karen Backus and Manny Gronveld returning as advocates. Karen is the Director of Rights Management, and Manny is a Director and Executive Producer at Bell Media. From CBC, we have a number of returning advocates and a new addition as well this year. So first we have Sarah Adams, who's returning this year as the Director of Current Production of Drama. Next, we're pleased to announce that we have Barbara Mamabolo, who's joining us this year as an executive in charge of current production and drama, who will be grouped with returning advocate Paige Murray, who is an executive in charge of development of drama. Our third advocate grouping returns this year as part of the CBC comedy team. We have Melanie LaFan, who is an executive in charge of current production, and Sarah Kwan, who is an executive in charge of development. And lastly, we have two advocates returning from Cineplex. We have Robert Cousins, who is the Senior Vice President of Film, and Thomas Santram, who is the Senior Vice President, General Counsel, and Corporate Secretary. So for more information on all of our returning advocates, please take a look at their full bios on our cohort page, as you will be asked to select your top 3 choices to be paired with on your application.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's such an exciting list of advocates this year, and we're really excited to see who they get to be paired up with. So we want to hit a couple of elements of program eligibility criteria before we talk about the other logistics of this program. So I'll first note that this program is designed to support professionals who are Black, Indigenous, or persons of color. So we do ask that you are BIPOC if you apply for this program. Some of our experiential criteria can also be a little bit flexible. So I want to say at this point that we recognize that people can come to this industry in a variety of ways, in a couple of different directions. So if you feel that you're kind of close to what these requirements are, always feel free to submit that application. We definitely understand that not everyone's journey into this industry is the same, and it can include things like coming from a different industry or having taken a break from this industry, or if you have experience from that isn't necessarily, professional, that wasn't paid, or that comes from outside of Canada. So feel free to just submit that application if you feel that this is a good fit for you. What we have on the page, in terms of experience eligibility criteria, are that we ask for a minimum of 5 years experience in the Canadian film or TV or media screen industry, or equivalent experience. And if you're going for equivalent experience here, feel free to note in your application what about your experience you feel makes it equivalent. If you want to particularly work on your skills in developing story, then experience in developing story is an asset, but it's definitely not required to apply. We ask for at least one leadership position in any capacity or experience overseeing a team. And this element can either be professional from your career, or it can be voluntary or something you've done in your community. And we accept applications in either French or English. But again, please remember that the placements this year will be made in English dominant environments. We definitely need participants to be Canadian citizens or permanent residents of Canada and 19 years of age or older by the time this program starts in June.
So for anyone interested in applying to the program, all applications must be completed and submitted through our online portal. This can be found on our website at academy.ca/programs/exec residency. In order to start your application, please note you must have a Google account to use this portal, and you will be required to log in using this account. There are no costs or application fees to apply, and feel free to start your application and continue working on it over several sessions, and the application doesn't need to be completed all at once. You can return to your saved profile at a later time. We highly recommend that candidates start their application, and please take a look at the form before emailing us with any questions, as we found that a lot of the inquiries we get are clearer once you've had a chance to take a look through the portal. So for the application itself, you'll be required to submit a list of items, which we've included here on the screen. First off, you'll need to submit a copy of your CV or resume in PDF format. Next, we ask that you share a 150-word professional bio. This should tell us just a bit about who you are, your previous experience, and your goals in the industry. On the next piece, we have for the application, it's a 500-word letter of intent or leadership mandate, as we call it. And so this question is just posed as a plain text box. You don't need to format it in a specific way. The question just asks you to share your personal thoughts on why this program is a good fit for you, where you are in your career right now. And we ask you to share your approach to creative leadership and which traits or skills you find most important in that role, along with your approach to building and maintaining an ideal team environment. Fourth, we ask that all applicants submit a 2 to 3 minute intro video. So for this, your answer should highlight either one project or initiative that you worked on that you're proud of and why. And this can be a community or work project. It doesn't need to be related to the screen-based industries at all. And please note that this video does not need to be filmed in a specific way. We don't ask for any production elements. Just take your phone or your computer, pop record, and let us know. You can feel free to talk candidly, and this is your chance to share how you present yourself in a speaking format. And feel free to upload this to the platform of your choice. So for example, you can upload the video and share the file using a password-protected link on Vimeo, using an unlisted video on YouTube, or by sharing a Google Drive link. And we just want to point out that if you do use Google Drive, please remember to manually share access to that file or folder where your video is located. And on the application itself, you'll just need to share that link with us. And so continuing with the application checklist, we ask that you also include a 250-word summary of your professional skills. So feel free to name 2 to 3 skills at which you're most proficient in and that best represent your style of work. For each skill you list, we also just like to know how you built up or demonstrated these skills as well. And in addition to these few items we've mentioned on the call today, there are multiple text responses throughout the application that also ask you about your goals for the program and overall career. And lastly, all applicants will also be required to provide the contact info for 2 references. We don't require any letters of recommendation, but rather just the phone numbers and email addresses for these contacts. And so over here, we've mentioned that one of these contacts be from someone who you manage and who can speak to your management or leadership style. And the second reference should be from a creator that you work with who can speak to your story and development skills or just your overall ability to execute a creative vision. And so this can be in the form of a writer, director, or editor, but not limited to these roles at all. It can be just about an individual's creative ability and that can be recognized through various relationships in the industry.
Thanks, Chris. We're going to talk very briefly about the adjudication process. So the selection committee for this program is a mix of industry professionals from our industry and includes some representatives from our program's community and collaborative partners, as well as our staff. The deliberations from the committee do have to remain confidential, and those recommendations are put together by the Academy team to find who our successful candidates are for this year. Those applicants will be announced publicly via press release in June of this year, once the adjudication process is over. So to talk through some of the broad categories of selection criteria that our committees are looking for this program, one of them is strength of experience. So does this applicant come with some track record of experience in this industry that particularly illustrates growth? Is there a desire for growth in this application? They also look for benefit to our industry. So does that experience and perspective of the applicant offer some value and excitement for the future of our industry? We also do value the fit with the preferred candidate. So, like Chris mentioned, in the application, applicants do need to select the advocates that they want to work with. And in the application, is there the suggestion that the focus that that applicant wants to put into their time in the program is that actually a fit with the advocate that they've chosen? Is that something that the advocate can actually support? And again, if the applicant is looking specifically to work with developing story, some aptitude with story in their experience is very helpful there.
So to take you just through our timeline and key dates, the application intake period has already begun. The application period will remain open until 5 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, March 13th, 2025, at which point submissions will be closed. From there, the internal review period of all applications for processing and eligibility will take place throughout the rest of March, with the committee review also taking place then. And in April 2025, we'll begin contacting all shortlisted candidates to schedule video interviews, at which point we'll lead to final decisions of this year's cohort. And lastly, the program will officially begin in June of this year. And so for any comments and questions related to the program guidelines, content of your online application, or technical difficulties, please contact us at programs@academy.ca. And so before we go into our Q&A period, we'd just like to remind everyone that we have additional resources here that we've mentioned that are all bilingual and available to you as reference while you prepare your application. So once again, we have our rules and regulations, our FAQs, our previous info sessions on YouTube, and our email there as well again. And so just again, as a reminder for our Q&A portion, please use the Q&A button here on Zoom and submit any questions you have about the program. Please reserve any questions about your personal eligibility or personal application materials, and please send those to our team by email instead, and please submit your question just once. And our recording will be available on YouTube as well again.
Amazing. Well, thanks everyone. Feel free to start dropping in those questions and we will start taking a look. Chris, I'm happy to start and pick the first question if you're feeling good about that. Amazing. Okay, thanks so much. So the question is from someone who looks like they might have applied previously and didn't get into the program at that point. And can we offer feedback to improve the application? It's a good question. So first of all, I will say that we do have a pretty small cohort year to year. And that definitely isn't like super proportionate with how many applications we get. We get a lot of really good applications. So just because, you didn't make it into the cohort in a previous year doesn't mean that your application wasn't good. Um, like we mentioned, we do have to hold some amount of confidentiality for the notes and the feedback that were given from our selection committee. So we're not able to share a lot of details for that were given to us by the selection committee. But if you've applied previously, we are always happy to connect if you have specific questions about how to improve for the following year. And we've found that that's the most successful approach to connecting with potential folks who are looking to reapply, because every year what we're looking to offer in the program is slightly different. Some of the eligibility criteria changes around a little bit. So I think the best strategy is just to approach us, like probably send us an email with any specific questions you have about how you want to improve your application for this year or to demonstrate growth from the previous year. And we can chat one-on-one about our thoughts on like how to present that application. Chris, anything to add?
Nope, I think you've covered it all.
Great.
I go into the next question for now, I guess. This next question is regarding the first reference requirement. Does this have to be an individual we've managed in the industry itself, or can it be someone external from a different industry? So as a reminder, we have two references we ask for. One is someone you've managed who can speak to your management leadership style, and one's from a creator who can speak to your storytelling skills. And so both of these, especially for the management one, it could be someone from outside the industry. It does not have to be in the screen-based industries at all. But feel free to pull on that and pass them in as a reference in your application.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, pretty industry agnostic. We believe in transferable skills. I'll pick up that next question. This, in summary, I think is a question that is asking about like whether the application needs to use a lot of big words to present professionalism. No, generally no. I think it's more important to present who you are as a screen industry professional and get that across in your application, as well as like presenting your passion and being clear about what you'd like to focus on and what you'd like to work on in your application. It doesn't need to be, SAT words. So I think staying authentic to who you are as a creative and what your goals are is the most effective way to construct a successful application.
Thank you, Nancy.
Go
I
on, yeah, go, Chris.
This one is just asking if we can attend remotely as a participant, and the answer is yes. This is a fully virtual program, so all our programming takes place online. So for our group programming sessions with guest speakers, those are typically over Zoom, and then any meetings you take with your advocates that you're paired with can be on platform of your choice, of course, but we can also set up those Zoom rooms for you if you'd like, if needed, but everything is to take place virtual within Canada so that anyone in the country can apply.
Yeah, sorry if I missed this, Chris, but I'll add on that it absolutely is designed to be a remote first program. If there are little opportunities to do in-person stuff and it's of interest to the participants, then we are always happy to support that, but it's definitely not required. I can pick up this next question, a very good question about the video element of the application, and what they should cover. So we do give the question in the application that should be addressed in the intro video piece. So definitely stick to the answer there, but basically, yeah, it shouldn't be fancy. I would say, like, again, go for authenticity to who you are as a professional, and show your passion for it. Like there's no editing needed at all. Can just kind of be like this, blur your background. You don't have to set up a fancy bookcase or anything. And just give us a little bit of a sense of who you are as a professional in the workspace, how you would conduct like a professional interview.
Amazing. And next question, it says, how much is the expected time commitment for the program? So this is a part-time program. We would recommend just a few hours per week. Of course, this would vary just depending on the month. If we have more programming, if there's less, there are some months where sometimes if no one's available, for example, in the cohort and we aren't able to get the group together, there are a few weeks that could go by. But also if everyone happens to be available and we're able to book some guest speakers in, there could be one or two back-to-back. But in terms of time with your advocates, that's also on a case-by-case basis, but we recommend meetings with your advocates at least twice a month. So one where you kind of get to sit in on a bigger meeting with them and some work that they would do, and then having a one-on-one debrief in the second session to just kind of talk to them about your personal career, your goals, anything you want to learn more about. So recommend roughly a few hours per week.
So thanks, Chris. And this is like my obligatory every year note to add that this is a program where we definitely consider it part-time. It's like not a full-time job, not a full-time commitment. But as always, with any opportunity, whatever you put in, you get out. So if you have more time to dedicate to, preparing for sessions or connecting with your fellow participants, that can only be all the better. I think that's a couple of the questions after that as well. Those are kind of about the time commitment. So I'll go to the next question here about what successful applicants of the program can expect to have gained by the end of the program. Very good question. Um, to to address what I guess sometimes people think these programs are like, they're not really job placements. They're not specifically intended to get people into a job role by the end of the program, but it is an industry in which learning more about the industry is really helpful and getting to know more people is really helpful. So the direct outcome of this program, I think, is that participants should get a much better idea of what is offered within the industry, how many different voices there are, how many different styles of achieving your goals there are, as well as, we really try to select our guests and advocates and other cohort members in order to make really meaningful connections for the participants who are in the program that year. So we usually offer participants an opportunity after a guest session to like email our guests so that you can create this one-on-one connection with them after the fact, especially if you found what they spoke to relevant to your career. And we encourage you to take advantage of those opportunities and just expand your network and as much as possible create that personal connection. Um, I think we have also seen a lot of collaborations. This is just a plug for the connections that have been created in the program, but we've seen some collaborations between participants with each other because a lot of our participants are like pretty far in their careers, where they've, teamed up on making future projects, and that's been really exciting. I'm rambling a little bit. Chris, is there anything that springs to mind for you that you want to add to this answer?
No, I think that's a good point to highlight is that there's just a lot of room for collaboration and just to rely on each other as a cohort. Even towards alum, there's been participants who have reached out to our past alum just to connect and learn more about their fields and their industries. So having that kind of peer-to-peer community that we're building with this program as well goes beyond just your direct cohort and also with your advocate.
Yeah, sorry. And on that note, I will also mention with advocates, the idea is that the advocate will be able to support and guide you past the end of the program as well. So while you may no longer be in the program and like have the official advocate participant relationship, we hope that that's someone that you can go back to if you have a relevant question for them later on down the line, or if that's someone that like are looking to get a further connection from. So these are like valuable industry connections that we have seen last a long time beyond the end of the program. Okay, cool. Chris, you want to take the next question?
Amazing. Thank you. This next question just asks if this is a paid residency. And so we do give modest honorariums to our participants who make it into the cohort. And this is meant to just be kind of a professional development amount that gives you the opportunity to learn more about a specific topic in the industry or something you want to just focus on within your residency. But I think also it's meant to support you while you take time away from work, whether that be full-time, part-time, and just to give you some funds back into your devotion to the program and the time that we kind of share with you. And Nancy, don't know if you have anything to add to that.
All good. Thank you, Chris. That's a good answer. I'm going to hit this next question, which is that the asker is enrolled in Toronto Film School and asking if they're eligible to apply. I'm going to generalize this to if I'm in school, am I eligible to apply? Which is kind of up to you. So one of the hard and fast eligibility criteria that we ask for is that participants are 19 years of age or older by the start of the program. So if you are younger than that, there are future years of the program, hopefully, and we'll see you then. If you are 19 or older, it is kind of just a question of how much you can manage that schedule of being in school, presumably full time, with participating in the program. Like we've said, it's not a full-time commitment to the program, but we will ask for some participation during sort of the 9 to 5 hours that you might be in class. Or studying or doing whatever students do during the daytime now. And there is an ask during the week. So if it's up to each individual participant to decide if they feel like they want to juggle that, but we do have an expectation for participants to be dedicated to the program to some degree. Yeah, so consider that within the scope of your existing obligations. Chris, feel free to take
Next one.
add or the next one.
Yep. I think we've kind of answered this one already a bit, but we'll speak to it again. Over the course of the cohort, how often do we meet or interact with advocates or attend any sessions? So just as a reminder again, for advocates, we recommend meeting them twice a month over an 8-month kind of program, which is the duration of the year. And then in terms of sessions and group programming, we typically do one every month. So at least a minimum of 6, I would say, but sometimes we go over and it's been 8 to 10 within that range.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so this next question is about if you work full time, can you be in the program? Uh, Again, sort of a similar approach to being a student. If you feel like you can manage it within the scope of your full-time job, then you're definitely very welcome to apply and participate. I will say on this front that most of our past participants have been folks who are working full-time at both like sort of jobs that have more flexible hours and what you would consider an office job that's like a 9 to 5. So it's definitely possible. But again, we do ask that participants make time to take part in any sessions that are going on during the quote unquote work day. So we hope that participants have that flexibility. For these sessions, we want to take into account what everyone's weekly schedule is. So we'll try not to put these sessions in the middle of like a really important meeting that you have in the middle of the Wednesday, as much as possible. So that consideration is going to be made, but again, some amount of flexibility within that full-time job would be really helpful for participants to make the most out of this program.
Amazing. I'll take it from there. The next question asks to go over the leadership mandate portion again, which is part of the application. And so, as a reminder, this is one of the questions within the application itself. If you go into our portal and take a look, the full question is there with more details. But just to summarize it quickly, basically just asking you why you think that this program is a good fit for you, where you are in your career right now. So just being able to speak to why this program can help you in your career, whether that's in a specific topic in the industry or whether a certain experience that you want to learn more of, or if it's just getting a wider network. And the mentorship aspect, we'd like to hear just in your words kind of what you feel that we can support you with, especially also with your advocates that you've ranked as your top three, how you feel that those specific people can help you in your career as well.
And just a general piece of advice on any of the written portions in the application. I think the clearer you are about your goals, the easier it is for everyone reading that application to understand that you are a good fit for the advocate that you're looking to be paired with. Thanks, Chris. I will just reemphasize the answer to this question because I think it's important. The question is, does previous leadership in the industry need to be in Canada, or does international experience on independent projects work? So the answer is yeah, all of those work. Your leadership and your professional screen industry experience don't need to be in Canada, and they don't also specifically need to be within film either. If you have like work in TV or if media is what best describes your experience thus far, there is a lot of flexibility, but definitely not writing off anyone who has international experience. We very much welcome that.
Thanks, Nancy. I'll take this next question. It says, in the sessions with our advocates, do we come to these sessions with questions, or will they be taking us through what they do day to day? And generally, how are these advocate sessions structured and who's driving these meetings? So we say it tends to be a mix of both. We do really recommend and put the emphasis on our participants to come ready with an agenda or things you really want to learn more about and give our advocates kind of the heads up of where they should be driving you, where they should be kind of leading you down, and if there's certain people you want to meet or if there's certain topics that you want to focus on, that I guess that focuses really depends on you and your career. So we expect you to come ready and kind of have an idea of where you want to place the emphasis of these sessions on.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you have like focus and specific questions that are made super clear to our team, in particular to the advocate, then those have been more fruitful, we have found. I'm going to try to answer this question up here about someone who's applied for a couple of different programs that may be starting around the same time. And can you pull your application if you get accepted to a different program? Um, I think that's definitely up to you. We would love to talk about how it might, like, if you are a good candidate for our program as well, if you are interested in trying to balance both, would love to talk about that because so much of our program is designed for the participants that we have that year. So if you have specific scheduling needs but feel like you can make time for this program, and you make it, decently far into the selection process for the executive residency program, happy to have that conversation. If you do need to pull your application, we'd say sooner is better than later. Um, Again, this program starts in June. So if you're looking to apply, which, shoot your shot, I don't blame you for that. If you could let us know, yeah, within the next 2 months would be my personal preference. Chris, I don't know if you have a different controversial take on that.
Nope. Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
And I can do the next question. This asks, how many people will you be choosing and how many people in a cohort? So we mentioned this earlier already, but there should be 6 to 8 participants in the cohort. So of course, feel free to apply and we will be getting our good mix of participants in this year's cohort.
Thanks, Chris. This is a question about whether it's possible to send our letter of intent and CV, and I'm assuming other written materials in English, but to submit a video in French. Yeah, you're welcome to mix it up to whatever you feel comfortable doing. I will say that if you have French materials and are intending for it to reach an Anglophone advocate, that it might be helpful for you to like make sure that you have a translation of whatever you deem important in English if you're comfortable doing that, just so that you kind of have the controls for what is shared with our advocate. If not, then no worries about it. We will be able to handle bilingual applications. So it's just whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you want to present that you feel represents the strongest version of like the vision of you as an applicant for this program. Hope that's not too muddled an answer. Thanks so much for asking this one.
And I'll take
Chris, go
it
for it.
here. Yep. Thank you. Is this program good for directors, writers, and DPs, or more suited for producers? I would say this program is a bit more skewed for producers, but generally we've had directors, writers, and not necessarily DPs. I'm not sure about that, but we've definitely had a good mix of writers and directors in the program in the past. But in that perspective, we would recommend that you kind of come open with an idea to learn about different topics. It's not necessarily going to be in hands-on. You're not going to be focusing on a project. So just please keep that in mind when you do apply, and that it's meant to kind of have a more of a mentorship and group programming focus where you cover a range of topics in the industry.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Chris. I think to emphasize that if you are coming at it from one of the more creative roles, it isn't a project-based program. So you're not going to be focusing on just like one film that you want to get made the whole time. There will be a range of guests and a couple of different hats and perspectives that would be good to have that would help make the most of the access that is granted through this program. So good point. Thanks, Chris. I'm going to hit maybe a similar question here about if the program accepts people who work as independent artists, and particularly in digital arts. I am going to kind of go for maybe a vague answer here in that this is kind of a broad field also. Like digital arts, from my understanding, can mean a couple of different things. So if you feel that the goals of the program are in line with what you want to do going forward, which is to make more inroads in the screen industry and to work on screen industry projects, and you feel that's a good fit, as well as some of the other experience-based criteria, if you feel that those fit you or you have equivalent experience to that, then definitely feel free to submit that application. If you still have kind of questions about your specific road to this program and your previous experience, feel free to send us an email as well about what your question is or like what the concern is. And we might be able to help a little bit more and get into specifics in email.
I'll take it from here. What if some participants are not super far into their careers, but they're hoping this program will help them make the leap or help them get their first big project next? Do they have a chance at getting a spot on this program? I would say yes, please do apply. And it doesn't matter if you don't necessarily have many credits or you're not far into your career. If you feel like you've had experience that translates into that kind of minimum 5 years, which is very loosely of a term that we use in our materials, but if you feel that you feel ready for a leadership role or are looking to make that next big step, please do apply and just be honest in your answers of how you feel that this can really help you make that big jump into your next move.
Yeah, I think another thing here is if you want to email us, that's super fair. It's not always, I guess, agreed upon in this industry what a quote unquote big project is as well. So if you're talking about, you haven't made your first feature yet in the film industry, then there are a couple of alum at this point who have made it into the program, have been really successful in the program, who came to the program not having yet made their first feature. I think some amount of familiarity with the industry definitely doesn't hurt because we are going to make a lot of connections and there's going to be a lot of context. But on the flip side of that, if you are coming from a different industry and have the capacity and the interest and the passion to really do some study and research and looking into yourself, then that's also totally fair, totally a fair way to approach this program. Um, Sorry, I've been yapping a lot and not reading the questions. I'll just answer this one real quick. Do the references need to be from the screen industry? No, your references can be from a different industry, and they can also be from volunteer or community work. So as long as it is, I guess, outside of your family or best friends, but someone you've worked with, it doesn't need to be in like in the traditional quote unquote professional capacity, and it doesn't need to be in this industry.
Thank you, Nancy. I'll take this next one. Are cohort members expected to stay in their lane? For example, if I'm a producer but interested in development, is it possible to pursue an advocate outside of my area of expertise? We would say yes. I think just also include that in your answers of what you want to learn more about or things that you haven't necessarily had an opportunity to take on in your career so far. So having that mention of what kind of topics you really want to focus on would be great to see in your application, and just being able to also share that with your potential advocates.
There's also a lot of opportunity to discuss topics that are like not quote unquote in your lane with other members of your cohort or other alum of the program, which we often bring together. So yeah, definitely feel free to come to the program with an attitude of like, let's try on a couple of different hats. Let's see what else is out there. In addition to having a pretty specific focus with your advocate. I'm going to address this question about if you have other programs going on, assuming other like film projects, the program, like, is the program able to be flexible about that? So yeah, basically, because we've had a lot of very successful alum who have gone through the program with full-time jobs and in the middle of pretty big projects, this is definitely possible, and we do want to be accommodating, understanding that the whole point of the program is to move people forward in their career. So if you need to take time for a project that will move you forward in your career, we totally understand. There is just the expectation that folks will be communicative to the program when they have blackout periods. So there is a bit of planning that's asked for on the participant side to be really aware of what upcoming dates they are not going to be available. So if you want to focus on your project, like, block out a couple of dates within reason and let the programs team know so that we can try as much as possible to schedule these connections around that. And I think that there still is some expectation that you're not gone for like 8 months of the year. We still would very much like to see all of our participants. We think this is so much a stronger program when folks are able to spend the couple hours a month and make those connections with both their advocate and the rest of the cohort. So please do keep that in mind. If you're someone who thinks that you're going to need like the 24/7 for a full 3 months to finish a film, um, it may not be the best year to take advantage of this program.
And yep, I agree with that. If you are going to be unavailable, please just let us know. We try to be super flexible, so as long as you let us know in advance, we can try to plan around it. Next question says, is this specifically meant for people who want to be executives, or will people who are filmmakers and producers benefit as well? And so ideally, the idea of this program is meant to kind of foster the next generation of leaders, and we do want to make sure that you kind of have that intention when you apply to the program still. whether it be short term or long term. I think it doesn't have to be in the next 1 or 2 years, but if you see yourself kind of working towards that position, ideally, yes, that's who this program is kind of built for. We do have some programming that's kind of focused on mentorship and being a leader and the soft skills side rather than just hard skills. So please come ready with that expectation. But otherwise, if you're a filmmaker and a producer, we don't discourage you to apply, but please just keep that in mind when you do look to our program.
Thanks, Chris. This next question is about whether there will be any internships or hands-on experience as a part of this program. Um, Again, would specify that this program isn't intended to create internship opportunities. There's no what we would call an internship, or maybe what you're thinking of as an internship as a part of this program. It's kind of just being paired with an experienced executive so that you can shadow a bit of what they do in their daily routine and their role, and giving you the opportunity to create the experience that you want in an hour a month and sort of ask them questions and get the information that you feel like you've been missing in your journey so far from someone at that level. So it's not specifically meant to create an internship. Um, Hands-on experience, I don't know if we're referring to specifically in-person experience. There can be some opportunities for like exercises or you know, like what you would, yeah, consider doing a little bit more work or like rather than just a conversation. So we've had folks be able to give notes on a script that the advocate was looking at in their daily work. Um, but it's not, again, it's not really like you're not really in the job. You're sort of shadowing someone and having the access to ask them a lot of questions. So it's kind of a yes or no, yes and no here of I think there are lots of opportunities, especially if you ask for them, to the degree that they're possible with the advocate, with the projects that they have on their slate at the time. Um, but it's really not a job opportunity. You wouldn't be like you wouldn't be given the role in the official capacity at that company.
Thank you, Nancy. I will take this next question. They are asking, other than the advocate meetings, what other meetings or seminars are offered? I'm going to guess that this is referring to our group programming sessions where we have guest speakers. So as I think Nancy mentioned earlier, but basically the way we do it is we welcome our participants and we ask them to kind of fill out a form in advance before the program begins, just giving us an idea of what topics you want to learn about, what organizations or companies you want to hear from, or specific names in the industry. And we try our best to program according to that specific cohort for the year so that the programming actually caters to what the group wants to learn more about. In the past, I can share that we've talked about distribution, we've done development, we've had sessions on funding, on streaming, a bit on show running and creators. So kind of try to cover all parts of the industry, and it's not limited to a certain topic. But there may be some sessions that don't necessarily apply to you as much and others that might feel right up your lane. But there's a good variety that we try to program every year.
Thanks so much. Just to reiterate at this stage in the chat, that there are a couple of sort of like hard and fast eligibility criteria that we're looking at for this program. So, like we said, if by the beginning of the program you are a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident of Canada, we're looking for that piece. You should be 19 years of age or older at that point, and that this program is designed for professionals who identify as Black, Indigenous, or persons of color. Sometimes we get questions on that piece, and feel free to send us any emails you have about that. But we also understand that people approach identity in a couple of diverse ways. So if you identify as Black, Indigenous, or a person of color, feel free to apply, or we can have a discussion over email about that.
Thanks, Nancy. Continuing with questions for now. This one asks if the program is interesting for people working in digital content producing for television and film in brackets, but more oriented in the digital field. I think that's totally fine. It doesn't matter if you work in the digital space and kind of have a more focus or emphasis on that, as long as you feel like you are still looking to take on a leadership role and still kind of working in the screen-based industries rather. I would say that you feel free to apply.
Thanks so much. Um, this question is, will this affect my OSAP? So this may be a little bit of an unsatisfying answer in that I'm not an expert on how OSAP works. So if you have specific questions on like those logistical admin details, feel free to email us. But I will say this isn't considered like a post-secondary course or anything like that. So I don't believe really even interacts in the same category. We definitely don't interact with OSAP as a program. So hope that helps. And if it doesn't, feel free to send us an email about that.
Amazing. Not sure what the next question is.
I'm going to work on the answer to this question, which is, can you post the link to where to find the advocates on the website? Because only the previous year's advocates are up. So I'm going to grab that link for you. It's currently just in our rules and regulations doc, and I'm assuming English works for you folks here. So I'll just paste it there. Once we announce the next year of participants, then that's where all the glamorous headshots and bios get posted up on our website. But for now, the current year's rules and regulations has the names and the titles of the advocates who are on board for this year.
Thank you, Nancy. This one says, if it is not project-based, what do the assignments look like? Is there room to ask questions we face on specific projects we are working on or specific challenges we currently face? So as just a reminder, we don't have any specific assignments in this program. You kind of are able to come to these meetings, whether it's group programming and asking guest speakers general questions you have about the topic that they might be an expert on, or coming ready to meetings with your advocates, ready with topics you want to learn more about. Whether it be focusing on a project that you are currently working on, I think you are welcome to do that in that space with your advocates. And if they're able to help guide you and give you advice or give you notes on stuff that you might be currently working on, that's a good opportunity to do so. And having that space to pose questions with that is what that's intended for.
Uh, please note this is also not really a pitching opportunity for projects that are on your personal slate. It is a learning opportunity, and we don't really encourage unsolicited pitches, but that doesn't mean that advocates are not open to hearing about their participants' work. It has happened a lot in the past and has been really fruitful. So, yeah, we ask that the participants navigate that with some discretion, but just it's not a pitching program. Sorry, Chris, I was busy pasting a link, which means I can no longer read.
Nope, all good. I'm reading as well. Thanks, folks, for your patience while we look through your questions.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Okay, this question is about whether theater slash comedy counts towards the 5 years of experience in film. I would say this is kind of an equivalent experience situation. It like I think there's definitely an argument to be made here that those skills are very transferable. So if you come from a theater background and comedy also exists in TV and is the focus of a lot of our advocates, so you're definitely welcome to apply if your background is in comedy.
And I'm going to try this one. This one says the online application section about the 500-word letter of intent is different from the one we've seen during the orientation. The one we saw here asked us to talk about a project we were proud of, whereas the one online asked about leadership skills. So I'm going to confirm and just clarify again. So in the application, there is a letter of intent that should be a text-based response. I believe it's a little bit earlier in the application if you take a look on our portal again, but that one should be talking about why you feel that this program is a good fit for you and a chance for you to talk about your leadership style and all that. And then the other part of it is a video where we expect you to film yourself recording and answering the question verbally and sharing a link with that into the application itself. And that one, you are asked to talk about a specific project that you've worked on or that you're proud of and why. So that's two different questions. One should be a video and one should be a text-based response. Hopefully that clarifies that. But feel free
Thanks, Chris.
if you are still confused.
Always email us if there's something specific in the application that you're finding. It may well be a bug, but also we're happy to clarify what the intention of each of the questions is. On a similar note, which I very much rushed to read this question while you were answering that, Chris, is that the application asks a couple of similar questions in it. So one of them is if the applicant could please describe any topics of interest that they would like to explore in the online group sessions or any other professional development needs that should be addressed within the program for them. And then another question is to list the top two needs that the applicant has in that stage of their career. And that these seem pretty similar. What's the difference? So the first question is specifically about based on, the applicant's understanding of this program, what would they like to see? So what are the topics that they specifically want to explore within this program? What are the professional development needs that they feel can be supported by this program? The second question is a bit more general so that the selection committee gets an idea of what is next for that person in their career. There definitely can be some overlap in this. Obviously, a lot of people want to use this program to achieve the needs that they have in their career, but that's sort of like the nuance of it. And often we've seen folks identify different things that, sometimes the program ones are a bit more specific or they're a bit more short term. So feel free to think on that a little bit from that perspective. And if they are somewhat similar, that's also acceptable. You don't need to come up with completely different revolutionary answers for both of them. We understand that all of the questions are sort of geared toward understanding what's next for the applicant in their career.
Amazing. Next question just asks, what certification will I receive? So to confirm, there's no certification you will receive from this. It's a program just meant to give you a mentorship opportunity for you to ask questions to experts in the industry, whether it be your execs as your advocates or industry leaders throughout the group programming. So that's how this program is designed.
And I believe this is our final question for now, and we're getting pretty close to where we meant to end the session. So great timing, everyone. Great job. I will, yeah, I'll address this one, which is, I'm sorry if I'm misunderstanding this. If there are any cohort members that have an experience working with Indigenous filmmakers, because a lot of the cohort has been diverse. I wonder if this question is also referring to our advocates, our VPs and our execs. So I will say that we have had a lot of alum at this point come through the program who are Indigenous. So, we have a lot of like that representation, and we've had a lot of those discussions within the program so far. And those participants have also been paired with advocates who are still part of our program. So there definitely are some advocates who have experience both within our program and in their work outside of this program, because a lot of them do work with a lot of different creators in the Canadian landscape, working with Indigenous filmmakers. Thank you for that question. Chris, how do you feel about? Okay, great.
Yep, I'll do this last one and we'll wrap it up from there.
Cool.
This one just says, does the video serve the same purpose as a written form? I would say they are technically made as different questions with different content of how you can answer them, but also the video is also meant to be just a chance for you to share how you present yourself in a speaking format, just because we know that this program is designed to be leaders. So having that chance for you to share your part of your application in a speaking and verbal format rather than just all text-based is a different way for you to present yourself. I think that's basically it, unless Nancy, you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I'll just tack on that there is a lot of this program that is speaking in front of other people. So it's also an opportunity for you to sort of flex that muscle, which is something that participants do regularly as a part of the Executive Residency Program. Okay, thank you all so much for joining us. And I hope this has been helpful. Like Chris mentioned, we will make this available as a video on demand on our YouTube channel. And you can always reach out to us via email if you have any other questions. Chris, anything else?
I think that's it. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks so much, everyone.